Ever wondered what feeds a video factory? AI-driven music videos. Get ready to uncover the core ingredients. We are diving deep into the essential inputs for AI-driven music videos. Learn how audio, lyrics, visual manifests, and branding elements all come together. These aren't just separate files, they are the DNA. Discover how these inputs shape your final AI-generated masterpiece.
Episode 1. What is Video Factory? How we built an AI music video pipeline? Welcome to Episode 1 of the Video Factory series. In this series, I want to show you something more than just another AI tutorial. I want to show you how we are building a real pipeline. We are building this from scratch, step by step, with real tests, real mistakes, real fixes, and real output. The main idea behind Video Factory is simple. What if instead of manually building every single music video from zero, you could build a system that does a big part of the work for you, but still gives you real creative control? That is the problem we are trying to solve. Manual editing takes time, a lot of time. Most AI tools are still very fragmented. One tool helps with visuals, another helps with lyrics, another helps with clips, another helps with motion, another helps with branding or post-processing. But if you want a repeatable workflow, you still need to connect all of those parts yourself. So Video Factory is our answer to that. It is a system designed to connect music, lyrics, visual logic, and clip selection into one pipeline. The goal is not just to make one good-looking video. The goal is to create a workflow that can generate multiple usable versions of a track. Different styles, formats, moods, and outputs without rebuilding everything by hand every time. And this is also why this series matters. At ePlanet Creator Lab, we do not want to show polished theory that hides the messy part. We want to show the real process. That means experiments, failures, redesigns, unexpected problems, and gradual improvement. You will also see real ePlanet songs and visual fragments across this series, because I want this to be educational, but also enjoyable to watch. The idea is to learn something practical, while also hearing the music, and seeing how the system performs in a real creative environment. If you are a music creator, an AI video experimenter, a content studio, or a YouTube automation builder, this series is for you. In the next episode, I will show you the inputs behind the system. The audio, the lyrics, the manifest, the branding, and the structure that makes everything work. See you in Episode 2. Episode 2. Video Factory Inputs. Today we cover audio, lyrics, manifests, and branding. Welcome to Episode 2 of the Video Factory series. In the first episode, I showed you the big picture behind Video Factory, why we built it, and what problem it solves. The system is meant to turn music and creative ideas into finished video outputs. In this episode, I want to focus on something more basic, but also more important. The whole system is only as good as the inputs you give it. If the structure is messy, naming is inconsistent, or branding is unclear, then the whole workflow becomes weaker and slower. It becomes harder to scale. So let's look at what actually goes into the system. First, we have the audio. Usually that means WAV files because they are clean, stable, and ready for production use. Then we have the lyrics. These are important not only for subtitles, but also for building the visual direction. The lyrics can influence theme, mood, keywords, symbolism, pacing, and the overall world the visuals support. Then we have the manifest. This is one of the most important parts of the package. It tells the system what the project is, what track belongs where, and how everything should be organized. We also have branding assets like the cover art, logo, and other visual elements that keep the output consistent. And finally, we have naming conventions and folder structure. This may sound boring, but it is critical. If your files are not named clearly, or if your structure changes, automation becomes unreliable very quickly. That is why we treat the input package almost like a product in itself. When the package is clean, the workflow becomes repeatable. When the workflow is repeatable, it becomes scalable. Then you are no longer just making experiments, you are building a real system. In the next episode, I will show how the system starts turning lyrics and meaning into a visual world. Welcome to episode 3 of the Video Factory series. In the last episode, I showed you the inputs behind the system, the audio, the lyrics, the manifest, the branding, and the file structure.
Now,
we move into one of the most important parts of the whole pipeline, semantic retrieval. Because a system can read words without understanding meaning, and when that happens, the video may be technically related to the lyrics, but creatively wrong. For example, if a song contains the word iron, the system might return clips of ironing clothes. But in the song, iron may actually mean metal, industrial texture, emotional hardness, or part of a much bigger visual world. So the real challenge is not just matching words. The challenge is understanding what the song is actually about. That is where semantic retrieval comes in. In Video Factory, this layer tries to build a deeper understanding of the track before clip selection begins. Instead of relying only on literal keywords, the system creates a semantic summary of the song, gamifies the visual world, extracts key concepts, symbols, environments, and also negative terms that should be avoided. It can also work at the section level. So different parts of the song do not all get treated the same way. That matters because a song is not one flat emotional block. The intro, build-up, peak, and ending may each need different visual emphasis. This semantic layer helps generate better search requests, improve clip selection, and filter out results that do not belong to the same world. So instead of random visual drift, we get stronger consistency. And this is also why diagnostics matter. A real AI workflow should not be a black box. We want to inspect what the system thought the song meant, what concepts it used, and why certain clips were selected or rejected. So this episode is really about one key idea. If your system does not understand the song, it cannot build the right visual world. And if it cannot build the right visual world, the rest of the pipeline becomes much weaker. In the next episode, I will show how we expand the clip pool with layered retrieval, fallback logic, anti-fixation. So even difficult tracks can still produce diverse and usable video results. Welcome to episode 4 of the Video Factory series. In the last episode, I showed how semantic retrieval helps the system understand what a song is actually about. But even when the meaning is correct, that still does not guarantee a good video. Because another problem appears very quickly. What if the first search gives too few usable clips? What if the clips are relevant but all look too similar? Or what if the system gets stuck repeating the same visual idea again and again? That is why Video Factory uses layered retrieval. It is not just one search and done. First, there is core retrieval. This is where the system finds the strongest clips that match the song's meaning, mood, and visual world. Then there is expansion retrieval. This brings in related ideas and alternative visual directions that still fit the track. And then there is fallback. Fallback matters because some songs are abstract, or lyrics are hard to visualize. Sometimes the first queries simply do not return enough strong material. But fallback should support the video, not take it over. That is why this system also tries to control how much fallback content gets into the final pool. And this connects to another big idea, anti-fixation. System can become visually lazy. For example, if it sees the word city, it may keep returning neon, rain, and night streets every time. But a city can mean many different things. It can be clean architecture, empty morning streets, or transport systems. It can be rooftops, concrete shapes, or industrial movement. So anti-fixation helps push the system away from repeating one default habit. This makes the clip pool more varied, more useful, and more creative. And that matters a lot, because if the pool is weak or repetitive, you usually cannot fully fix that later in editing. You need quality and diversity at the retrieval stage. So this episode is really about building a stronger candidate pool before timeline planning even begins. In the next episode, I will show how this pool turns into different versions of the same song. Long, short, and alternative edits that should feel genuinely different, not just slightly rearranged. Welcome to episode 5 of the Video Factory series. In the last episode, I showed how we build a stronger clip pool with layered retrieval, fallback, and anti-fixation. Now we get to the next challenge. What do we do with that pool once we have it? Because 3 versions of the same song do not really help if they all look almost the same. That is why Video Factory is not designed to create just one output. It is designed to create multiple variants of the same track. Long versions, short versions, and alternative edits that should feel meaningfully different. And that difference matters. A long version has more room to develop atmosphere, pacing, and visual world. A short version has to reach impact faster. It needs stronger compression of the idea, clearer visual priorities, and better parity with the energy. But even when the format changes, the bigger problem is overlap. If version 1, version 2, and version 3 all keep reusing the same clips, same dominant moments, then we are not really generating variants. We are just making slight rearrangements. So this part of the system tries to push the outputs apart in a controlled way. That includes cross-variant penalties, reuse limits, and local repair logic, when one version starts looking too close to another. The goal is not random difference. The goal is creative difference with the same song identity still intact. And this is also where diagnostics become important again. The system can write a variant overlap report, so we can actually inspect whether the versions are truly different or still too close. Without measurement, it is easy to think you made 3 variants, when in reality, you made one version 3 times. So this episode is really about one simple idea. Multiple outputs only matter when they give you multiple usable creative outcomes. In the next episode, I will show how the motion engine helps those outputs feel alive through movement. Intensity, shake, zoom, and timing. Welcome to episode 6 of the Video Factory series. In the last episode, I showed how the system creates different long and short variants from the same song. Now we move to another layer that changes how those videos actually feel. The motion engine. Because even if the clips are good without the right motion, the result can still feel too static, too flat, or too much like a slideshow. The series plan defines this episode around motion profiles: intensity, shake, zoom, accent, and depth. In other words, the controls that make the image feel alive. In the current MVF system, motion is not just one on or off switch. There are different motion profiles and different intensity settings, and different ways to shape the movement of the image. The technical notes confirm profiles like off, basic, bold, kinetic, drift, _max, pulse, impact, and chaos. Plus support for mix mode, rules mode, accent layers, depth layers, debug overlay, and compare motion testing. Why does that matter? Because too little motion can make a strong sequence feel dead. But too much motion can also break the result. If every shot shakes too hard, zooms too aggressively, or moves for no reason, the video stops feeling musical and starts feeling forced. That is why this layer needs tuning, not just activation. That is also how we arrived at the current default. The system recommends a mixed profile built around bold, drift, _max, and impact. With motion intensity around 0.40 to 0.45, shake around 0.20, and zoom around 0.40. With accent and depth set to auto, the goal is visible motion but still controlled motion. So this episode is really about one simple idea. Good motion does not just move the frame, it changes how the whole video breathes. In the next episode, I will show the debugging and feedback tools that help us understand what worked, what failed, and how we keep improving the system. Welcome to episode 7 of the Video Factory series. In the last episode, I showed how motion helps the video feel more alive. Now we move to something just as important: debugging. Because a good AI system is not only about generating output, it is also about being able to say why something went wrong. That is exactly how Episode 7 is defined in the series plan. Compare, motion, debugger, overlay, and semantic cache. Provider check, retrieval debug, reports, and the feedback loop that helps us build the next sprint more intelligently. In Video Factory, diagnostics are not an extra layer added at the end. They're part of the architecture. The current overview lists diagnostics as one of the main pipeline layers, alongside retrieval, timeline, planning, motion, and rendering. That matters because without diagnostics, you are guessing. Did OpenAI actually run, or did the system fall back somewhere else? Did the retrieval pool have enough strong clips? Did the timeline overuse too few assets? Did version 2 end up too close to version 1? Did the motion settings help the track, or make it worse? These are not abstract questions. The system already writes reports to help answer them. The documentation highlights retrieval_pool_report.json, theme_distribution_report.json, and timeline_utilization_report.json. Also, timeline_clip_map.csv and variant_overlap_report.json as the main places to inspect what happened. And this is where the feedback loop becomes real. You inspect the reports. You find the weak point. Then you adjust the settings, the rules, or the defaults. Maybe the pool was too small. Maybe fixation was too strong. Maybe the timeline reused too much. Maybe motion intensity was wrong. The point is that each run teaches the next run. That is how system improvement becomes intentional instead of random. So this episode is really about one simple idea. If you cannot inspect the system, you cannot improve it with confidence. In the next episode, I will show the whole pipeline on a real album with a case study built around virtual exodus. Welcome to episode 8 of the Video Factory series. Up to this point, I have shown the system one layer at a time. But now it is time to look at the whole thing as a real workflow. Because this is not meant to stay a theory project. The series plan defines this episode as a full virtual exodus case study, not a slide demo, but a real album pass through the system. So where does that process start? It starts with the album package, the manifest, the WAV files, the lyrics, the cover, and the logo. From there, the MVF pipeline builds semantic meaning for the track, retrieves candidate clips, plans the timeline, applies motion, and renders outputs. That full flow is described directly in the current system overview. But an important part is not just running the system, it is checking it. The current MVF guide recommends verifying that OpenAI is really being used on one virtual exodus track before doing a bigger run. Then it recommends inspecting the generated reports and only after that using the full album baseline command. That matters because a real workflow should not jump straight to a huge render and hope for the best. First, test one track. Then inspect the reports, then scale. And that is why this episode is important. It connects everything from earlier episodes into one practical example. Inputs, semantics, retrieval, timeline planning, motion, rendering, and evaluation. So this episode is really about one simple idea. System becomes real when it can take an actual album from package to output repeatedly. In the next episode, I will show who a system like this can serve and how it can become a product or a tool for other creators. I am now pulling episode 9 from the roadmap to ensure the product. Service and consulting parts are embedded in market realities. Welcome to episode 9 of the Video Factory series. Up to this point, I have shown how the system works. Now the question becomes, what can this system actually become? The series plan defines this episode very clearly. Video Factory does not have to stay just a tool for me. It can become a product, a service, or a workflow that helps other creators produce video more efficiently. And that matters because the value here is not only in one finished video, the value is in the pipeline. The current MVF overview describes the system as an automated workflow that reduces manual editing while keeping meaningful control over clip choice and scene variety. It maintains control over motion behavior and output formats. That is exactly the kind of thing that can create commercial value for artists and content teams. So what are the possible models? One option is a custom service for artists. Musician gives you a track package, and the system helps generate multiple music video versions faster than a fully manual workflow. Another option is an internal studio tool. A small content studio can use the same architecture to create more outputs with less repetitive editing work. Another option is white label workflow. The client sees a branded result, while the pipeline underneath stays yours. And then there is consulting. Some creators or teams may want help setting up the package structure, workflow logic, and defaults around their own pipeline. The series plan explicitly calls out consulting and package setup as part of this episode. What makes this stronger than a manual workflow is not magic. It is repeatability, scalability, and controllable variation. And the same architecture can go even further. The MVF technical overview notes that a future branch could adapt this system beyond music videos into narrated or explicable content. This is done by replacing the timed lyrics layer with timed voiceover or speech segmentation. So this episode is really about one simple idea. When a creative workflow becomes structured enough, it can stop being only a process and start becoming an offer. In the final episode, I will show the roadmap for what we still want to improve, expand, and build next. Welcome to episode 10 of the Video Factory series. And this final episode is about something very important. Not what the system already is, but what it still wants to become. The series roadmap defines this finale very clearly. The most interesting thing about Video Factory is that it is not finished. It matures together with feedback, tests, and new ideas. That is why the last episode is about roadmap, not victory laps. Because a system like this is never really built in one moment. It improves in layers. Some layers are already here. Semantic retrieval, fallback logic, timeline planning, motion design, music reactive cuts, and diagnostics. The current NVF overview shows that these are not future ideas anymore. They are already part of the working architecture, but there is still a lot we want to improve. The roadmap calls out better semantic retrieval, better visual diversity, smarter fallback, more motion styles. And the technical notes add more concrete extension paths, faster generation without visible quality loss, AI-generated insert clips, stronger motif, callback logic, variant-specific style, personalities, and even future branches for narrated or explicable videos built on the same base architecture. That matters because the goal is not just to make one pipeline run. The goal is to make the system more useful, more flexible, and more reliable. A better semantic layer means better clip meaning. Better diversity means less repetition. Smarter fallback means difficult songs still work. More motion personalities means stronger artistic range. And productization means this can eventually become more than an internal experiment. So this episode is really about one simple idea. Video Factory is not a finished object. It is a living system. And if you want to follow how that system keeps evolving through new experiments, new fixes, and new creator-focused AI workflows, subscribe to ePlanet Creator Lab.